Hello, my children of the night, and welcome back to the brand new season of Reviews from the Room. I am your new host, Bobby. Our old host, I'm afraid, has passed on. But that's alright. The show will continue on in a new direction, forever in his memory. For tonight's news review, I bring to you something quite special.
Vampires. Yes, vampires. The most famous antagonist in all of book and film history. The very first vampire ever created was from the author John, I don't know how to pronounce your name, Palladiro. With his book, The Vampire, written in 1819, the story was highly successful and arguably the most influential vampire film of the early 19th century. However, it was Bram Stoker's Dracula, published in 1897, which is remembered as the quintessential vampire film. And also, the very first vampire film in history was in 1922 with the silent film Nosferatu. Still based off of the story of Dracula, though the names are different. Even the character of Dracula is different. He was never represented as being charming or handsome, but a disgusting monster. So, vampires all throughout film and book history have had either these two distinguishing identities: beautiful, charming, sexual creatures of the night. And sometimes that. Or monstrous beasts that will devour and tear you apart. Or both, sometimes.
So, let's begin with... Hello? I'm home! Oh no. Oh my, what a wonderful vacation. Why is it so bloody dark in here? Goodness. Hello, Bobby. What are you doing?
What are you doing here? I thought you were dead.
Dead? I was on my vacation. And again, the way everyone was looking at me, I might as well have been dead. But anyway, back on subject. What do you think you're doing here? It's a perfectly simple question, Bobby. What are you doing with my video camera and my show?
Your show? Your show? This was our show! It was supposed to be our show, but instead I'm just in the background. Oh, look at me, I'm the silly, funny little quiet little sidekick. Oh, look at me, look at me. And I always wanted to try to contribute, but you wouldn't let me. Instead, you just toss me to the side or toss me in the corner. I get no appreciation for any of the work I do. I don't appreciate it. I really don't.
I suppose that is a good point. Sorry. I brought you a present. well, why don't we continue on with the show? Nice to be back in the reviewing chair, isn't it? So, this being the very first brand new episode of the revamped version of Reviews from the Room, I am your host, once again, D. Mentor. And this is my co-host and assistant, Bobby. Still upset with me.
But what film were you going to review for tonight? Oh my. Yes, why not? Very fitting for our first new episode. Very fitting. Why not? A classic retelling. Bram Stoker's, or as other people have come to calling it, Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula.
Bram Stoker's Dracula, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, made in 1992, was a reimagining, or retelling, of Bram Stoker's original classic of the same name. So our story begins with Dracula as a mortal man defending his home and his church from a rival army who threatens his homeland. After a bloody and vicious battle, Dracula is victorious. But upon his return, his beautiful bride, Elizabeth, committed suicide. He's informed by the priests and by the letter on her dead body that she was given false news by the enemy of his demise during the battle, and that she had hoped to join him in the afterlife. The priest informs him that because of her suicide act, that her spirit is eternally damned.
Now why, in someone's right mind, would you tell someone that? It'd be like if someone walked up to you while you were out Christmas shopping and said, "Hey, while you were out, your mother was hit by a drunk driver and she died. And her last words to you was, you're adopted and she never loved you."
Starring Gary Oldman as the Count himself, Anthony Hopkins as the famous slayer of Dracula, Van Helsing... No! Not that one. 4 centuries later, and we meet Jonathan Harker and his bride Mina. And we're immediately introduced to the first problem of the film.
Okay, so we need to talk about the elephant in the room now, don't we? The 2 worst parts about this film are our leads, Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder. Could we not agree about that? Yes, we could. Well, obviously it's no secret Keanu Reeves is not exactly a actor's actor. He's better suited to play the sort of roles he began playing when he first started. This sort of thing makes you wonder, though. How many takes did they do until they realized this is the best that we could get? Honestly? Honestly.
An ancestor? I see a resemblance.
I know where the bastard sleeps. I brought him there. To Carfax Abbey.
Good God, man. Your acting is absolutely atrocious. And your accent is almost as bad as mine. What?
Here is yet another problem that we have with our first male lead in Keanu Reeves, is that a lot of his reactions to everything that he's seeing is uncommon or spooky or even frightening or strange as it may appear. He gives no real reaction, just a look that says, "Yep, that just happened." Really? Anyway, after that,
Jonathan is summoned off to Transylvania to meet up with Count Dracula, who has bought quite a few property lands in London, and Jonathan is meant to close the deal. Upon meeting with Dracula and having a brief meeting and dinner, Dracula insists that Jonathan will stay in his home for a month. Against his will, of course. Soon, Dracula makes his way to England and begins setting his plans in motion.
Now here's a part of the film that really kind of makes no sense to me. Dracula falls in love with Mina because she represents a reincarnation of his former bride, both, well, pretty much just in looks. He falls in love with her. She rejects him the first time they meet, but as it goes on, they kind of become friends, but she's afraid of him, intimidated, but intrigued by him. Later on, he charms her and woos her. She falls in love with him. She hates him for the things that he's done. But it's always kind of a back and forth, and their love really seems to kind of kindle out of, well, nowhere, really. And that's kind of my problem with this film. It's meant to be a love story. It's presented as a love story, but it doesn't really work as one. It might have been better if it was just a horror film, but at the same time, you are meant to feel sympathetic for Dracula. He is presented in such a way, after all. The sympathy does work for this character, but the rest of the time, you don't really feel anything else. You do enjoy him as a character, most certainly. And as an actor, Gary Oldman does certainly pull that off in many of the scenes that he's in. He steals the entire show. He should have been the star of the film. And thus, he is the star of the film.
You think you can destroy me with your mind?
But here is another problem that I have with this film. Sir, aptly named Anthony Hopkins as Dr. Van Helsing.
Well, I to worry for all young lovers.
She is the devil's concubine! Hey!
Exactly, I just want to cut off her head and take out her heart.
Doctor,
Yeah?
how did Lucy die? In great pain.
Yeah, she was in great pain. Then we cut off her head and drove a stake to her heart and burned it, and then she found peace.
Doctor! Please.
That's my main problem with him. He comes off as far too comedic in these scenes. And maybe it's meant to be taken that way. He is an odd little German man. But really? These horrible tragedies have just befallen these people, and you're treating it like a joke? And are we meant to believe this is his first time dealing with vampires? Or has he always dealt with vampires, and so he's used to it? We're given no real backstory as to what he knows about vampires or anything like that. Just that, oh, I have this knowledge! Again, it's something else for the film that just doesn't work. Not for me, anyway.
A lot of the film has the look of an erotic dream, and that's actually exactly how the director wanted it presented. All presented as if it was very lurid, very dreamlike, and wanted to have the look.
So then, getting back to the plot and main story at hand.
Dracula makes a bride of his own in Mina's friend Lucy. Lucy doesn't last too long. She's taken down.
And please suggest your
by
own
Mr.
horror
Van
movies
Helsing
you'd like to
and
see
his
appear on
group
our
of
show.
friends, including
That is,
Lucy's
if we are allowed by
bride
the
and a few
higher
other men that
powers
she was
that be
courting at the same time.
to review
And Dracula
them.
makes Mina
Until next time, we hope that you've enjoyed.
at her own request.
See you next time.
But soon it becomes a race against time, for Mina shall soon become like Dracula. So her fiancé, Van Helsing, and his group of friends race off to stop Dracula and confront him once and for all, and save her from her curse. So very quickly it becomes a race against time, and a final confrontation with Dracula before the sun sets, and he reaches his home abode. Stab through the heart, and you're too late. You give blood a bad taste. Finally, at the end, Dracula is defeated. And Mina must face the final blow and kill him. And thus our tragic story comes to its end.
And so then, there you have it. Francis Ford Coppola's vision of the retelling of Dracula. A film that is on some occasions hit or miss. I'm not quite sure how most people feel about it today. Myself, I think it's an okay film with a lot of its own problems, of course, namely due with our leads that we have. But nonetheless, the film still stands with the best of times. It is available in all formats, both digital and physical. I always prefer to have a physical copy available whenever I can, as go for all films of any genre or any collection. Should you be able to find a copy, I would suggest you pick it up wherever it is. Well, that was this episode of Reviews from the Room. I do apologize for it going up oh so late on holiday. We hope that you've enjoyed. Please let us know in the comments section, and you can also visit our brand new Facebook page down below in the description. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you did truly enjoy this. And please suggest your own horror movies you'd like to see appear on our show. That is, if we are allowed by the higher powers that be to review them. Until next time, we hope that you've enjoyed. See you next time.